after further review, a Clemson student's perspective on sports.
It's AFR time, baby. Let's get up. Let's get rolling.
That's right.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business. We played it out.
Okay, so if Trevor Lawrence isn't either the second or third string quarterback in the fall, I shave my head and you get a tattoo?
You gotta get a head tattoo. You gotta shave your
get a head tattoo. Now we're talking.
And get a head tattoo.
A personal foul on number 99 of the defense. After he tackled the quarterback, he's giving them business down there. That's a 15-yard penalty.
And now your host, Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Good morning. AFR is on the radio. Happy Saturday morning to you. Thanks for tuning in to another edition of After Further Review. Jay Smith, Bradley Kendall, Evan McDowell. Hard to believe, but this is our fourth episode here at WCCP. And Bradley, I don't know what's more shocking, that we've had 4 episodes now or that we've kept Evan around for this long.
Oh, I guess he deserves it. He hooks us up with some stuff every now and then, so we had to keep him around.
He's got some good nuggets. But Evan, how you doing this morning?
As the metaphorical glue that holds the show together, I am doing splendid. Thank you very much.
Well,
Get off your high horse.
We've got a lot that we want to dive into today. So Bradley, let's get right down to it. Dive into it after further review.
Do you think y'all could tell me who Clemson played in their first ever bowl game? I had to look it up. I had no idea. But the final score was 6-3. So that says a lot about the times back in the day.
I just want to know, were there any passes completed?
Maybe 3.
Because I have looked at some archive footage before from the 30s, 40s, and 50s, and needless to say, more often than not, you're running the ball.
It was running the ball, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you more on that later. We'll get into that in our second segment of the day. But we'll start off Clemson bowl games. Any of y'all's favorite ones? Do you guys have a favorite one personally? I know the national championship one is the first one that comes to mind.
Yeah, the discussion this week, like I said, was going to exclude national championship games for obvious reasons. But yeah, we're looking at our best or most favorite Clemson bowl game of all time. For me, I had a couple that kind of stood out looking through them. One is the first game, one of the first Clemson games that I actually ever remember watching on TV, and that's the 2004 Peach Bowl. And that was Clemson taking on, I believe, number 6 Tennessee. They were ranked 6 at the time when Phil Fulmer was there. Kind of, I think, when they were in their heyday. And Clemson was going into that game 8-4. Tennessee was 10-2. And the Tigers came out on top pretty significantly. They won 27-14. And they started the game out pretty strong. They had a 10-0 lead. I think Tennessee got a touchdown somewhere in the first half, pulled it to 10-7. But Clemson really commanded that game. And like I said, it's so long ago for me that I don't remember specifics, but it is, like I said, one of the first games that I have like a recollection of watching as a Clemson fan.
Yeah, I mean, I came in as a student and hadn't watched many Clemson games. I remember the LSU one, and Evan, you were going to allude to that earlier. It was one of the ones that was definitely most memorable for me. The one that really stood out to me was the 1978 Gator Bowl, known as I guess you could call it the punch heard around the world. Going back to Mr. Woody Hayes back in his days as the Ohio State head coach. Charlie Bauman was the Clemson player, the nose guard that intercepted the pass from Art Schletter, which I thought was kind of funny. It's Schletter Dining Hall over there at Clemson University. Bauman was unaffected, but Woody Hayes definitely took a hit from that play. It really settled in with him, and he just couldn't take it. Went out with a punch, and that was his last day as the Ohio State head coach after 28 seasons. So, yeah, one of the most memorable ones for me. Clemson played in a lot of Gator Bowls back in the day, and this was definitely the one that stands out back in 1978.
Yeah, it was something that we saw repeatedly being replayed when Clemson and Ohio State were playing against each other. I think it was the 2000. What they played in the Fiesta Bowl in 2016, but didn't they play one other time before that? Wasn't the Orange Bowl?
It was the Orange Bowl. I believe 2014.
The score was like 40-35. Evan, we played Ohio State twice in the last couple of years.
Yeah, we have.
Okay,
that's all you asked me. You asked me a yes or no question. Provided you with a one-word answer. You're welcome.
Well, what about you now? What kind of bowl games were you looking for? Are you trying to go the last 10 years? You looking way in the past?
No, I'm picking bowl games that I can remember watching because I was not around in 1978, so I can't say, I remember that game, because I don't, because I can't. But I do remember quite a few good Clemson bowl games from at least my lifetime. And like you said, Bradley, I'm going to start with the 2012 Chick-fil-A Bowl, playing LSU down in Atlanta. Had a pretty good year that year. Unfortunately, Florida State was a little bit better, so we didn't make the ACC championship game, but we still had a strong season. That was from what I remember, that was one of the better bowl games that year. As far as might not have had as many national implications as like a national championship would have, obviously, or a BCS bowl. But the Chick-fil-A Bowl, 4th and 16, I think we talked about it a little bit last week with Paul, I believe, who called in. So driving down the field there with very little time on the clock, Taj Boyd and Nuke hooking up for a couple of good passes down the field, and then Chandler Catanzaro hitting a 37-yard field goal as time expired to win that game 25-24. And that really, I think, helped kind of keep the ball rolling for Dabo and his recruiting and staff and that kind of thing. So I think that win really propelled us a long way going forward. So not only was it a big win at the time, but looking back on it, you can go, yeah, that really helped us get to where we are now. So I think it was a pretty significant bowl game, in addition to being a really entertaining, really good to watch bowl game, even if you're not a fan of either Tiger team.
If I remember correctly, we played LSU in that bowl game, and then the following season we opened, I believe it was against Auburn, or it was either Auburn or Georgia, and after the game, because we won our opener, I think it was Auburn, and Dabo made the comment that we were the first school to beat back-to-back SEC opponents that were ranked. I don't know if they were ranked top 10 or top 25.
We were at Auburn September the 1st, beat them by a touchdown.
I know they were in the graveyard, though, so it was definitely top 25.
Yeah, that must have been when it was top 25. Because like you said, that really...
They were 25, yep.
They were, okay. They were, but
just sneak it in.
It really validated the program, and like you said, was able to kind of propel us and get us in the national conversation for the first time in what it seemed like a long time for Clemson, I guess you could say since, the 80s. But, Bradley, I think those kinds of games, even though you're not playing for a national championship or playing for a college football playoff semifinal, they still can mean as much as those games. Don't you agree?
From a national recognition standpoint, I mean, you can look at teams, some of the backlash against the SEC is, they beat up on each other, but do they beat up on other teams? And I think that's what Dabo has been able to do in his tenure at Clemson, to really put Clemson on the map and put the Tiger Paw throughout the country. He's beating all these great teams from different conferences. I think that's one thing that really he has made an emphasis of trying to play these teams early on in the season and get wins against them.
Evan, what do you think? I mean, we've played lots of bowl games against SEC opponents, and we have been able to play against teams like Ohio State, Oklahoma. Which do you feel like mean the most in terms of beating a team from another which conference do you think means the most?
I guess it's got to be the SEC, right? I mean, they're the most consistent. They advertise themselves as a football conference. And despite the fact that in recent years it has been predominantly Alabama that's been carrying that reputation for the conference, I think, not to be stereotypical, but it just means more, when you beat an SEC team, it just means more. But, you always like to beat some of those teams that consider themselves, better or perennial football powerhouses. It's kind of nice to knock them off their high horse every once in a while. And especially in the last 3 or 4 years, if you can beat Alabama, like that's a pretty good win. Even though, Ohio State, Oklahoma, those are good football programs, good teams to beat, and teams that Clemson has had a lot of recent success against. For some reason, it feels a little bit better as an ACC team to beat an SEC team.
And also when they're in your backyard. I mean, we've got them right next door to us in some of these surrounding states. So you got fans of these teams that are right in our backyard, right next to us, that we can hang that over their heads once we take them down.
Well, Dale from Seneca texted in, and he mentioned a few that were a little bit before our time. We had the '88 Citrus Bowl where we played Penn State and we beat them 35-10. You had the '89 Citrus Bowl. We played Oklahoma, beat them 13-6, and then the '89 Gator Bowl. We played West Virginia, beat them 27-7. So we did have a stretch. We played in the '86 Gator Bowl, and then up until the 1991 Hall of Fame Bowl, we won 5 straight bowl games.
Yeah, the Gator Bowl and the Citrus Bowl, those Florida bowl games were some of the bigger ones back in the '80s, and that was a pretty good 3-year stretch right there. I mean, can't complain with that at all.
No, and I mean, again, like, we've talked about some of these bowl games that may not be the premier bowl game of the season. There's lots of other good games going on at the time. But in terms of the significance of them for the program, even a game like, I look at the 2014 Russell Athletic Bowl. We played Oklahoma, beat them 40-6. That's one of my favorite Clemson games to rewatch, just because of how badly...
You have to watch that for 5 minutes, and then it's pretty much over after
we
that.
beat down on Oklahoma. But you know what I mean? Like, again, you look at that kind of bowl game, you look at that kind of performance, and I guess you could make the argument that Oklahoma didn't show up for the game or they didn't care about the game. But that's not the point. The point is that Clemson went out there and beat Oklahoma 40-6 and completely silenced their fan base.
And then silenced them again a couple years later when we played in the playoff game. And it was just another punch one after the other against the Sooners there. I was looking back. This is kind of before everyone's time. And I was going to save this for the second segment when we talk about best Clemson coaches of all time. But going back to Clemson's first ever bowl game, I don't think anyone really knows without looking it up who they might have played. The Boston College Eagles was the first team that we got to play. And it was funny because it was in the Cotton Bowl and Clemson was invited, but only after two other teams declined the invitation to play in the Cotton Bowl. This was the fourth year the Cotton Bowl was in existence at the time, and after Texas A&M and Tennessee both declined to play in the game, I guess because they felt that was too low of a game and they deserved better. The owner, I guess you could say the leader of the Cotton Bowl at the time, didn't want the bowl to end after 4 years. So they said, all right, we're just going to go ask two random teams and see if they want to come play. And Clemson and Boston College were the first ones they happened to ask. So 6-3 final score. Banks McFadden was the MVP back in the 1940 season. And pretty cool little history lesson here. The O'Rourke McFadden Trophy is given out to the winner of the Clemson-Boston College game each time they play. And those were the two leaders back in the day for the 1940 teams. So,
wow.
Evan, I asked you this before the show what the winner got for winning that game, and you were pretty close with your guess.
I was only off by $35,000.
Couple $1,000. Good math over there, bud. But yeah, winner got $15,000. So signs of the times, that's probably equating to a seven-figure, payday at the time right now.
Right.
But a little history lesson there. 1940 season, Clemson starting off with a 1-0 record in bowl games. So pretty cool.
Well, if I had to pick my favorite Clemson bowl game, I'm going to go with the 2016 Fiesta Bowl semifinal game against Ohio State.
And why is that?
Shutout. Now it's not the first.
Oh,
shutout.
you said shutout. I thought you were telling Bradley to shut up.
No, shut out. 31-0, and I was just sitting there on my couch, edge of my seat, going, "There's no way we're going to shut Urban Meyer and the Buckeyes out." Like, as much as I want it to happen, I just did not expect for it to happen. And like I said, Clemson has shut out teams in bowl games before. You have to go all the way back to the '91 Hall of Fame bowl against Illinois. We beat them 30-0. But yeah, this game for me was just. It was the next level dominance that I had not seen from Clemson in a long, long time on such a national stage. And I really felt like, and again, this was obviously the year that we went on to win the College Football Playoff National Championship, but it was just, the exclamation mark that we needed going into that game to let everybody know, hey, we're for real, we're angry, we lost last year, and we're hungry.
Yeah, I mean, if you would have told me I would have bought a ticket to go all the way out to Arizona to watch the game, and I would have felt like I wasted my ticket, I would have thought that Clemson would have gotten beaten soundly, but kind of glad I didn't go because the game was pretty much over from the very beginning. It was like the Miami game last year that Kelly was talking about, just a complete beatdown.
They were the second team in history to shut out Ohio State in a bowl game. The only other team to do that, UC Berkeley in the 1921 Rose Bowl.
Wow. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the last time Clemson shut out a team was like a 7-0 defeat back in like the early 1950s. So it's been a long time for Clemson, at least, before they
shut them out for
a bowl game. Yeah.
Well, no, back at Illinois in 1991, the Hall of Fame Bowl.
That's right.
It was 30-0.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Urban Meyer was shut out, for the first time in his career, 193 games, and his second loss to Dabo in the last 4 years. So that was really impressive. And then obviously advancing to the second consecutive college football playoff. Like I said, I just felt like that was the best possible way that game could have gone. And, for us, it just, like I said, put the exclamation mark on that season.
What if I told you that the second bowl game I picked was just as important as the game you just described, but Clemson was on the worst end of the deal? What would you say to that? Would you know what game I'm talking about?
So we lost this game?
Clemson lost this game, but I would say it's equally as significant as that Fiesta Bowl. And I'll tell you why in a minute. It's the 2012 Orange Bowl.
Yep, I was thinking Orange Bowl against West Virginia.
I think we all remember that. Geno Smith, Dana Holgerson, just embarrassing our defense. 70-33. What a waste of a trip to Miami that was, huh? But I think from a significant standpoint, that game means just as much because if you look, since that bowl game took place, Dabo's only lost 2 bowl games, the National Championship and last year's Sugar Bowl. That's pretty important. That's pretty significant. That Orange Bowl basically is what got us Brent Venables because Kevin Steele did not last much longer. Barely rode the plane back from Miami, I'm sure, after that one. So that one left a super sour taste in all of our mouths, and it's a bowl game that we would have liked to have forgotten at the time. And I think in the 8 years since then, Dabo and the team and the coaches and all of us fans have done a really, really good job rebounding and moving on from that game. And you can really see how the program, and I use the Chick-fil-A Bowl as an example of this as well, but how it's turned around and how it's significantly improved and avoided that kind of collapsing. And that was the last time that you could say we Clemsoned.
Well, Dabo's 7-5 in bowl games, or he's 7-5 in postseason play. So that's
Technically bowl games. Yeah.
technically bowl games. That's not an amazing.
Well, I mean, you got to remember early
record.
on we struggled.
Early on, we
2010
played
against South Florida.
Well,
we lost,
you got
losing season.
2007 against Nebraska in the Gator Bowl. We lost that 26-21. Then you mentioned South Florida. Obviously, everybody remembers the Orange Bowl from 2012.
There's an ACC championship game loss in there, somewhere in there. Or that was the year that Georgia Tech might have made the ACC championship that we lost to them. It wasn't a postseason game.
Yeah, I don't exactly remember. But
Has Dabo lost an ACC championship game?
I believe he has.
He has.
Believe he has.
That'll contribute to our argument in the next segment, I suppose.
Yes, it will. That leads directly into the next segment. But yeah, I mean, again, like he's 7-5 in bowl games. He's done a lot for the program. Obviously, the success in his later years or his more recent years are more fresh in our minds. But I still think when you look at the body of work, it's impressive. But it does make you sit there and go, wow, for us to have all the success we've had and for us to only be 7-5 in postseason play.
Sounds like you're a little bit of a Dabo hater.
Oh, no.
What?
No.
How dare ye?
But I don't know. I mean, what do y'all think? Is that something out of nothing, or?
I mean, you got to give him time to develop. I mean, not everyone wins their first.
Well, like Evan said, he's 6-2 since his loss to West Virginia in the Orange Bowl.
So I mean,
in my, you could say
we have some room for improvement. You got to lower
around.
expectations just a little bit. Nick Saban's lost in bowl games. I mean, it happens to everybody.
The fact that in the last 6 years, not 6, sorry. Yeah, 6. In the last 6 years, that the only two postseason losses or bowl game losses that Dabo has is in the national championship and the national semifinal. I don't think that's worth getting mad about at all. And Jay, I don't know why you're smiling, but
we just got a text and we were talking about. I believe this text is referring to Clemson being the third team to get invited to that bowl game.
Cotton Bowl, 1940. Yep.
Yeah, the Chickens. So I assume he's talking South Carolina here. They were the first team to be invited to the 1946 Gator Bowl. The regular season, their record was 2-4-3, and they lost to Wake Forest.
Wow,
that's a double play.
A little consolation prize there for winning 2 games.
Well, see, the AP poll came out in 1936? So bowl games were formed around that time. I don't know exactly when. Because
so it looks like the NCAA currently was kind of like it was back then, where they were just trying to fill up bowl games and just put in whatever teams they can.
Well, and the thing is back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, teams didn't have the financial resources that they do now in order to travel. Like if you're Boston College and you're playing in Dallas in the 1940s, what was that, 1940 Cotton Bowl? That's an expensive trip. So, that's... We talked about it last week, though, about how, the financial impact of traveling can, put a strain on athletic programs.
Try making $15,000 to win it.
Yeah, no kidding. But we'll wrap it up for this segment. Like I said, we'll be back in a second, and we'll be looking at the greatest Clemson coach of all time. Stick with us.
If you dream of owning your own business but are overwhelmed at where to start or what to do, call Jan Pro. Whether it's extra income or starting a new career, Jan Pro will guide you, train you, support you the whole way. Just listen.
We made a very small investment into the business, but yet they took the time to train us and to teach us, how to do what we were supposed to do and everything. And not only to train us, but they follow up with us.
Call 485-3053 or online at jan-pro-wc.com.
Hi, this is Coach Dabo Sweeney. When it comes to buying or servicing a vehicle, I always choose Toyota of Easley for their great selection, affordable prices, and outstanding customer service. Toyota of Easley is a family-owned business, and in all the years I've been a customer, I've always been treated like family. I encourage you to visit Toyota of Easley if you're looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle or in need of service. Toyota of Easley is all in, and their name means a great deal.
For businesses needing the right people, Express Employment Professionals does the work for you. We get to know your business and what you're looking for, from skilled labor to administrative help or a new executive to join your team. For individuals looking for work, from office managers to sales professionals, welders to machinists, Express has the contacts to assist in your job search. Express Employment Professionals takes pride in connecting the right people with the right company. With offices in Easley, Spartanburg, and 2 in Greenville, we have the upstate covered. Go to expresspros.com to find your next job.
Local Q is the place to connect for food, friends, and fun. Have you made plans for brunch? Local Q has expanded their brunch menu to include a barbecue Benedict, house-made corned beef hash, and many more items to beat that hangover. Wash it down with a mimosa pitcher or a classic Bloody Mary. Keep the fun going with a little friendly competition. It could be one of their hundreds of nostalgic board games, pool, ping pong, Jenga, darts, or cornhole. Local Q, the place to connect for beer, barbecue, and board games.
When it comes to filling your prescriptions, time is of the essence. At Corner Drugstore in Pickens and Patrick Square Pharmacy in Clemson, there are no hassles having your prescriptions transferred or filled. They'll gladly do that for you. They can contact your medical provider or former pharmacy and take all that worry out of your hands. All you have to do is pick it up. No hassle prescriptions at Corner Drugstore in Pickens and Patrick Square Pharmacy in Clemson. Small town feel, big time service.
Save big right now at Anderson Ford on Clemson Boulevard, like a 2018 F-150 up to $16,000 off MSRP with payments as low as $399 a month or just $13 a day and zero down. That's right, payments as low as $39 a month or $13 a day on a 2018 F-150 at Anderson Ford, 3900 Clemson Boulevard, Anderson. Online at AndersonFordSC.com.
See dealer for complete details.
It's your wiener. Do what you want with it. We're talking hot dogs, burgers, and more, with over 100 free toppings to choose from at Clemson's newest and most unique restaurant. Not to mention one of the largest draft selections in town, outdoor patio, and weekday happy hour from 4 to 8 p.m. $6 liquor pitchers, full liquor bar, and 17 big screen TVs. Visit wiener.com for full menu and more information. It's your wiener. Do what you want with it. 101 Keith Street, downtown Clemson. Open daily at 11 a.m. Go Tigers.
Dabo knows the gridiron, Brad knows the hardwood, Monty knows the diamond, and the clever people know real estate. Serving the upstate as the top team of your local Berkshire Hathaway C. Dan Joyner office. The clever people have a proven track record of selling homes faster and for more money than their competitors. Built on a philosophy of putting people over profit, the clever people know how to protect you and your investment. Call 864-940-3777 to put them to the test. Go Tigers!
The concept behind the Husqvarna line of automatic robotic mowers comes straight out of nature. The principle of the grazing animal. The grass is cut a little and often. Easley Lawn and Garden invites you to see the revolutionary Husqvarna Auto Mower. Available in 6 models for every type of lawn. A Husqvarna Auto Mower from Easley Lawn and Garden leaves you with a great-looking lawn every day of the week and allows you to do other things while mowing the lawn for you. Once you've purchased your Husqvarna Auto Mower from Easley Lawn and Garden, their team can assist you with getting started. Husqvarna robotic lawnmowers are the #1 selling auto mower worldwide, in use throughout Europe for years. Now they're taking the U.S. by storm. Get your Husqvarna auto mower today at Easley Lawn and Garden, your local Husqvarna dealer for nearly 40 years. Veteran and family owned and operated. 312 South Pendleton Street, Easley. Online at easleylawns.com.
And now, back to After Further Review.
Welcome back. AFR's on the radio Saturday morning here, WCCP 105 The Roar. Thanks for tuning in. Second segment of this morning, looking at the greatest Clemson coach of all time. Now, before we get into this...
Should have been an easy debate.
It should have been.
Someone had to jump in and
we didn't actually think we were going to make a segment out of this until we couldn't stop going back and forth in our group chat the other day.
Before we dive into this, let's just give some historic context. So background, program history, all time. Played 1,050 games.
Teach us, Professor Smith.
Hey, there you go. 1,050 games, over 116 seasons. In that time, 8 coaches have led Clemson to postseason games. You got Jess Neely, Frank Howard, Charlie Pell, Danny Ford, Ken Hatfield, Tommy West, Tommy Bowden, and Dabo Sweeney.
Neely was the coach of that 40 Cotton Bowl team, by the way.
5 coaches have won conference championships. John Heisman won 2 as a member of the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Association. Howard won 2 as a member of the Southern Conference. And then Howard, Pell, Ford, Hatfield, and Sweeney have won a combined 14 as a member of the ACC. Obviously, in 1981, Ford led the Tigers to their first national championship, and then Sweeney has now guided Clemson to 3 ACC championships, 2 national title appearances, and he won the 2016 national championship.
Woo!
So,
sorry, still excited about that.
looking at a little bit more historical context, Howard's all-time leader in games coached at 295, seasons coached 30, and total wins at 165. He has the Heisman has the highest winning percentage with a .833 in his 4 years. And then of coaches with more than one season, Hootie Ingram has the lowest winning percentage, .34 in 3 seasons.
Rip in peace.
I think that's the only time we're going to say his name during this debate.
I hope so.
Of the 25 head coaches who have led Clemson, Heisman, Just Neely, and Howard have been inducted in College Football Hall of Fame, and Josh Cody was inducted into the Hall of Fame as a player. So, gentlemen, greatest Clemson coach of all time.
Court is in session.
All right, before we lose our minds over this, let me throw out some communication methods here in case other people want to set the record straight. Northland Communication phone line, feel free to call us 654-ROAR, that's 7627, or if you're on a rotary phone, dial it a little past halfway, a little bit less past halfway, a little bit, and then a little bit past halfway again. Health Dare text line 986-1566-1566, and we got our Twitter account back at After Review Show. That'd probably be the easiest way to reach all three of us at one time on Twitter, and all of our handles are in the bio of that account. So whether you want to get us on the phone, on the text line, or on Twitter, feel free to let us know who you think the best Clemson football coach of all time is. And the floor is yours, Mr. Smith, because you have an uphill battle with your opinion here.
So I'm gonna
It's
have
more
to
than an
start.
uphill battle at this point.
It's a losing battle, if you ask me.
Choppy waters here, bud.
Well, I know what side the Bradley and Evan are on. They're obviously going with the Dabo Sweeney approach. And listen, I totally respect that, and I'm going to listen to their side of the argument. But I'm thinking, when I look at the historical overall record of the team and the coaches, Frank Howard stands out to me. He's coached more games than anybody else at 295. He's got 165 wins, which is 64 than Dabo. He coached at Clemson, as we previously stated, for, I believe, 30 seasons. Now, his winning percentage is not as high as Dabo, but he has more conference wins. He has 100 conference wins to Dabo's 61. And yes, he has more losses, significantly more losses, but the fact that, the point of my argument is that Frank Howard was able to stay at the same school for such an extended period of time. I'm not discounting what Dabo has done while he's been at Clemson. In a lot of ways, Dabo is very similar to Danny Ford.
Did you put Dabo at number 3 and Ford at number 2? Or because you're making it sound like it's real close between Frank Howard and Dabo Sweeney. But are you putting Dabo at number 2 just for the record?
I'm putting Dabo at 2. But when I look at
the other day you had him at 3. I'm glad you wised up a little bit in that regard
the other day.
So when I pull up the stat sheet on these guys and I'm looking at games coached, Dabo and Danny are identical, 131 to 129, and then you've got wins. Dabo's at 101, Danny's at 96. Even losses, Dabo 30, Danny 29,
Conference championships 5-4.
Their winning percentage, almost identical. Dabo, .771, Danny, .760. So in a lot of ways, they're very similar. The only edge I could give to Danny is he has one more conference championship.
And the only edge I could give to Dabo is he hasn't been caught for NCAA violations yet.
That is...
Don't say yet.
I wouldn't say that.
No, I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that is the edge. That's the reason that I give Dabo the edge. I'm not going to sit here and say, well, Dabo has 2 more wins, or he has 5 more wins than Danny, so therefore he must... Danny does have another conference championship to his name. Obviously, there were recruiting violations when Danny was here, and that probably shortened his tenure at Clemson. And I don't discount anything that either of those coaches have done. I'm just saying that when you have a guy who is able to stay at the same program for multiple decades, and hopefully, my goodness, Dabo can do the same thing here. That would just be amazing, wouldn't it? But you just don't know how long you'll be able to sustain that. Who knows? In 4 to 5 years, we may slip a little bit, and it may take a while for us to get back up to the top. I'm not saying that Frank Howard kept Clemson at the top for 30 years. I'm just saying that they were able to maintain a consistent level for an extremely extended period of time.
I think this argument's almost a little unfair because, we've got a coach that was there for 30 years versus a coach that's been there for 10 years. I mean, if you want to do the numbers game and look to see how many wins Dabo would project to have over the next,
but that's
20
a projection.
Years.
That's a projection.
It's a projection, but there's nothing else we can really go off of because he's only been there for a third of the time.
That's my point.
Now, I mean, if you look
as of right now,
if you want to bring up the fact that he's been there longest, that's great. But you got to realize back in the day, I think programs were a little more forgiving when it came to coaches starting off not as strong as they would have liked. I mean, Frank Howard, 5 out of his first 8 seasons were losing seasons. You have that nowadays. Dabo doesn't last more than a couple years, and he almost didn't.
But when he was the interim coach, I think his only win when he was interim coach was against South Carolina, if I remember correctly.
Which is way more important of a win than anything else that season.
That settles
which is
well.
Probably what got him a better chance of retaining the job.
Now, I'm glad that he stuck around for longer than a couple years because it looked pretty unlikely, a couple years ago that he was going to even stay past 2 years. But, I mean, he's already got 101 wins in 10 years. Frank Howard had 165 in 30 years. He's only got 30 losses compared to 118.
They are playing
from
more
Frank
games nowadays than they did back in the day, though. You don't see teams in the 1960s or 70s. When Frank Howard was coaching here, they didn't play 15 games a season. There was not a chance to play that many games in a season. But you're right.
He's also played in more postseason games, so that's also more games.
Clemson
right there
has
for
to
you.
be able to make those postseason games in order to get to that number. So I hear what you're saying, but
you can argue the number of games they play, but Frank Howard had 3 bowl wins in 30 years. Compared to Dabo's 7 and 10. That says a lot.
What I'm hearing here is that, Jay, you don't agree with Bradley and I yet. But in 20 years, it's a landslide victory for Dabo. Right?
If
Dabo's here for the next 20 years, it's not even close. If Dabo's here for the
next 20 years and he averages at least, and I think he will, I don't know if he'll be here for 20 years, but if he averages 8 or 9 wins a year, he's going to pass Frank Howard. If he wins a couple more conference championships, he's going to pass Danny, obviously. And if he wins another even if he doesn't win another national championship, look, there's only 2 in program history. And we did get a text from an 864 number that he said Danny Ford's is in the Hall of Fame and he's the best coach. So, his argument may be, well, he got Clemson to a national championship in 81. And
whether he did it the right way or not.
Whether or not it was done by the book, that's open to interpretation. But there are people.
The trophy's still in the case.
That's right. And there are people out there that still believe that Danny is the best coach in history. But then you've got another guy in John Heisman that, he coached
here
there
for 3 years.
Coached here for less than 25 games.
He coached, that was back in an era.
And you try to use the win percentage one where he's only coached 22 games.
I thought he coached 25 games.
I thought it was 24, but none of us claim to be good at math, so that might be an issue there. But there's no doubt that John Heisman's a great football coach. That's why we named arguably the most prestigious trophy in college football.
He never lost
him.
a conference game. He was 16-0 in conference play.
I'm sorry, the middle of my sentence interrupted the beginning of yours there. Nice
sorry,
factoid.
They played like 3 other conference teams back in the day, too.
Still, though, again, I understand, yes, he's the 4th coach all time at Clemson. He did coach for 24 games. I believe you were correct on that. He won 19 of them. But
I said 24.
I said 24.
Don't give Bradley credit.
I guess I went
I told you I'm the metaphorical glue holding this show together.
But you have no love for Heisman as the best coach.
I didn't at Clemson, no. As one of the best college football coaches of all time, maybe, but not while he was here.
He did a lot at Georgia Tech once he left.
Well, if we're talking about greatest Georgia Tech coaches of all time, then maybe John Heisman gets the victory there, but not at Clemson, I don't think. He's one of the most recognized names, you could say, that Clemson's had as a coach, but in terms of overall greatness,
I think
just winning 19 games doesn't really get you there.
Okay, I think his success relative to the time period and probably how few people even knew Clemson existed in the early 1900s, I give him a lot of credit. I understand that he's never going to have all the fame and recognition that Dabo or Danny Ford or even Frank Howard are going to have. I get that. There's no monument to John Heisman on campus. Okay, you got Howard's Rock. Everybody knows Danny Ford. Everybody's going to know Dabo. Nobody's really, people know that John Heisman coached here. They don't really know when or for how long.
I don't think your average Clemson student would probably know that, though. Which is kind of sad.
I'd be pleasantly surprised.
I don't know. I think maybe some. But my point is, and I'm not saying John Heisman's the greatest Clemson coach of all time. I'm just saying that for the time period, considering all the all the different factors that go into it, for him to do what he did was very impressive. Coached 24 games. He only lost 5, won 19. That's pretty good.
No doubt.
We're not debating that, but it's not the greatest.
At the core of your argument, Jay, it sounds like for now, in terms of Howard versus Sweeney, you're taking quantity over quality for now. Because Frank Howard was here longer, has better numbers, coached more games. That's what is essentially at the root of your argument. That's the deciding factor of Dabo right now. It's just Dabo has not been here long enough to surpass Frank Howard.
That, and I'm talking greatest coach of all time. I'm not saying...
So are we.
We've talked a lot.
We're trying to, at least.
We've talked a lot on our show about how Dabo is an amazing motivator, probably one of the best that we've ever had. But is he the greatest coach?
Well, I think that's part of it. You don't just factor in your wins and your losses. You factor in the culture, the program, the recruiting, the attitude. So that basis that Dabo has built the on-the-field play upon, you could ask a lot of people, and they'll admit to you that as an X's and O's guy, Dabo's probably not the best in the business.
Which may be why we pay our coordinators.
Exactly. That's why we have great coordinators, too.
Yeah.
But if you look at everything that Dabo does off the field, there's not a coach in the country now or in probably the last 5 or so years that has the type of off-the-field impact, not just on the team, but also on the community
and
as
the program
Dabo.
itself. With the
Exactly.
athletic department, the facilities we've been able to build.
I mean, even if Dabo were to, let's say Dabo were to jump ship here in the next couple of weeks for some unbeknownst reason, and God forbid that happens, but he has established such a repertoire around here. His philosophies and his attitudes are so ingrained within our program that we would survive without him. It might not be as good, and we might not find the guy who fits in as perfectly here as Dabo does, but there is no doubt that Dabo Swinney has had a massive impact on the city of Clemson, South Carolina.
There's something to that, because I remember, when Chad Morris left for SMU, a lot of people thought the sky was going to fall out from underneath us, or not, the floor fall out from underneath us.
They never would have guessed that we would have gotten better.
No, and to have co-offensive coordinators, I think it's been for 3 years now.
It's been a great experiment.
It's
paid off.
It's a very successful experiment, and I guess it, like Evan's point, it does provide a testament to the fact that Dabo has built a culture and a program that can withstand that kind of shakeup.
And that's fair to include the coordinators in there, because just coaching itself involves the coordinators and the entire staff that you put together as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So, Frank Howard might have been here the longest.
But Heisman didn't have this kind of support staff that Dabo has back in the day. I mean,
such different times. I mean, it's also...
But is it not worth at least looking at? You don't have to say he's the greatest of all time, but you can also sit here as someone who was born almost 100 years after he coached at Clemson and say, wow, that guy really had, very little resources, and he was able to do...
It's unfair in 3 years, though. You can't judge a guy just based off a 3-year period.
Okay, look at where he went after he left Clemson. I mean, he went to Georgia Tech, and he was extremely successful there.
Great coach there. Wasn't here, though. It wasn't a Clemson
No,
campus.
but it's not like it was a fluke. That's what I'm saying. John Heisman wasn't a fluke. It wasn't like he was good for 3 years at Clemson, then he went to Georgia Tech, and he was like mediocre. No, he was good. They were good.
Danny Ford was good, too.
Wait, hold on. Say that word again. Just beside the point that we're talking about. I'll say that word again.
Mediocre.
Yeah. Mediocre. Mediocre, maybe. Okra's a vegetable. Typically fried. Delicious. Mediocre means bad. Subpar.
My original point.
Sorry.
I just want to hear you say relevant.
I heard that last week too, and I was like, did he really just say mediocre? So I just want to make sure.
My original point, going back to it, is I understand the whole argument that Dabo is potentially going to be the greatest coach of all time. I think a few more years are needed to really make that argument, and for me to really fully wrap my head around it. You still have
that's fair.
People, like
Dabo's
the
got great potential to be. Yeah.
Absolutely, but you still have people that texted in, a second ago and said, well, I think Danny Ford's the greatest coach. And for some people, it may be Frank Howard. But, are y'all not open to that, hearing that side at all? Do you still feel like that it doesn't matter because Dabo's won 100 games, 10 years, national championship?
I don't think Dabo's a cut above and head and shoulders above every single coach that we've had. It's definitely a debate. I just think he's the best if you compare him to the rest of them.
Well, and my closing argument, because I know we got to cut to a commercial, is Dabo has the best 6-year stretch in Clemson football history. From 2011 to 2016, overall record of 70-13, couple of ACC championships, national championship, way better than Frank Howard's best 6-year stretch as a Clemson coach. So I think from those numbers perspective, Dabo's the best.
A surprisingly civil discussion, but be sure to join the conversation, even if it's after the show. Tweet us and let us know what you think. But we'll take a quick break. When we come back, play a little trivia game. That's next.
The Kelly Grahamick Show is all new this Saturday at 10 a.m. right here on WCCP 105.5 The Roar. Roy Philpott, current ESPN play-by-play voice and former host of The Roy Philpott Show here on WCCP, will join the Kelly Grahamick Show for an exclusive interview sponsored by Chick-fil-A of Clemson and Chick-fil-A of Seneca. Also, check out the KG Show podcast on WCCPFM.com and iTunes by searching WCCP. The Kelly Grahamick Show this Saturday at 10 a.m. presented by Engineered Sleep. Nothing is more frustrating than having a garage door with a mind of its own. Doesn't always go up, won't come down, stops in the middle, and you have to limbo in or out. Not fun. Wayne's Overhead Garage Door is here to rescue you. Wayne's has been handling overhead garage door problems since 1975. More than 40 years of sales and service. That shows you they know what they're doing and they put the customer first. Dependable, on time, and professional. Call Wayne's Overhead Door at 226-9096.
Looking for delicious and innovative food in downtown Clemson? The Blue Heron Restaurant and Sushi Bar is the answer. Fresh house-cut steaks and seafood and free-range poultry are just a few of the menu items that define the Blue Heron. And don't miss the best Sunday brunch you'll find anywhere. Every Sunday from 11 to 2:30. The finest steaks and fresh seafood at the Blue Heron, College Avenue, Clemson. Visit our website at blueheronfood.com.
When it comes to filling your prescriptions, time is of the essence. At Patrick Square Pharmacy in Clemson and Corner Drugstore in Pickens, there are no hassles having your prescriptions transferred or filled. They'll gladly do that for you. They can contact your medical provider or former pharmacy and take all the worry out of your hands. All you have to do is pick it up. No hassle prescriptions at Patrick Square Pharmacy in Clemson and Corner Drugstore in Pickens. Small town feel, big time service.
It's your daughter's graduation party, but you're not sure what to serve your family and friends? Don't worry, Tom's Barbecue has your back. Tom's Barbecue serves hundreds of catered events and knows what the people want. Good food. Brock here, owner of Tom's Barbecue with my wife Beth, and we understand the value of a great catered event. Whether it is a graduation party, wedding, company event, or birthday celebration, you name it, we can cater it. Give us a call at 864-288-2652. Tom's Barbecue at the corner of Woodruff and Garlington in Greenville.
When you have a lot on your to-do list, the last thing you need to worry about is a car repair. Luckily, when you visit any of 16,000 Napa Auto Care centers, you get highly trained experts and a 24-month, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty, which means your car gets fixed right the first time, so you can spend less time worrying about the things you don't want to, like repairing your vehicle, and more time worrying about the things you do. Just visit NapaAutoCare.com to find the location nearest you.
Are you ready to go all in on a car? Granger Nissan knows what car will fit you and your family because they are a leader in the market with competitive inventory. They have everything for everyone. Granger Nissan is a family business, so they know the importance of taking care of the ones we love on the road. You can drive with confidence and ease because Granger Nissan has all new vehicles with a lifetime powertrain warranty. Granger Nissan is not just in the car business, they're in the people business. Stop by Granger Nissan of Anderson on 3510 Clemson Boulevard.
Save big right now at Anderson Ford on Clemson Boulevard, like a 2018 Focus. Payments as low as just $199 a month or just $6 a day and zero down. That's right, payments as low as $199 a month or $6 a day on a 2018 Focus at Anderson Ford. 3900 Clemson Boulevard, Anderson. Online at AndersonFordSC.com.
See dealer for complete details.
Calling all superheroes. Do you wish there was a way to make extra money while helping others in need? Now is your chance. Biotest Plasma Center in Clemson is seeking plasma donors who will be compensated for their time and travel. New donors can earn $50 on each of their first 5 donations. Repeat donors earn up to $310 a month. Walk-ins welcome. Become a superhero and save lives. Schedule your appointment and get more info at biotestplasma.com. Again, that's biotestplasma.com.
Hi, this is Coach Dabo Sweeney. You know, when it comes to buying or servicing a vehicle, I always choose Toyota of Easley for their great selection, affordable prices, and outstanding customer service. Toyota of Easley is a family-owned business, and in all the years I've been a customer, I've always been treated like family. I encourage you to visit Toyota of Easley if you're looking for a new or pre-owned vehicle or in need of service. Toyota of Easley is all in, and their name means a great deal.
And now, back to Jay, Bradley, and Evan.
Welcome back. AFR's on the radio. Thanks for spending your time with us. One last segment we have time for today. It's a little bit of a trivia game. We're going to have Evan explain this because this is his brainchild. Evan, why don't you give us the rundown on this?
Yeah, so this is just a real easy pastime. I encourage you to take it up if you haven't already. Real similar to a segment the Inside the NBA crew does with Ernie Johnson, Shaq, Charles Barkley, Kenny the Jet, called Who He Play For, where they'll say some kind of bench player. Nobody knows who he is. And Charles Barkley will have to guess which NBA team he is on that roster. But essentially the way this game works is you just call out a former college football player, could be a successful NFL player, could be someone who only had success at the college level, and then it is your opponent or opponent's turn to try to guess where that player went to college. And so there really is no beginning or end to this game. Play with a good buddy of mine pretty regularly. Shout out to you, Johnny Barris, if you're listening somewhere in Florida. We'll just FaceTime each other, and for a half hour, without even trying, we'll say, oh, do you remember so-and-so, where he went to school? And then, we'll kind of talk about that time period and having watched him play and that kind of thing. So it can get really interesting. And, of course, some are going to be a lot easier than others, as I'm sure as we go through this, we'll find out. But, yeah, essentially all it is guessing where players went to college and played their college ball.
Bradley, you ready for this? You got your hand on the buzzer?
I am absolutely ready. Before we start, I want to give a quick shout out to the guys that answered our trivia questions correctly this past week. Our first trivia question, I believe, was about John Heisman, and we had a picture saying, can you name this Clemson coach back in the day? We had James Tillman, Cole Smith, and Matthew Cope were the three guys who answered the quickest and the most correct. And then our second question we had the next day was kind of relating to our Pac-10 debate we had a couple, I believe it was last week. Who is the only school in the original Pac-10 to not make a Rose Bowl? Lots of good guesses, lots of ones I probably would have guessed myself. The correct answer was Arizona. That could change this year with what's his face, Khalil Tate, going to be there right now. But our three correct answers, we had Craig Lucas, Morgan Worth, and Bryson Sheely were our correct answers there. So we'll be doing more trivia in the next couple of weeks, so be sure to chime in with that. Try to answer that as quickly and most correct as you can. But we'll kick it back over to Jay and Evan. Do y'all have your players ready to go?
I've got mine. Evan, do you want to go first and have me and Bradley try and guess them?
I can. We could just do like one at a time because that's kind of how the impromptu rules of the game work. But I'm not used to having to write down the players and actually have memorized. It's usually, you just come up with it off the top of your head. And the one rule is you can't ask about a player where you didn't know he went to college.
This man struggled for a long time.
I did. I wanted to come up with...
He's better be good.
I'm expecting great things.
They're not as good as I want them to be, I'll be honest. So the first one, it should be pretty easy, but it trips some people up. Where did Brett Favre go to college?
Oh, he went to a small... Oh, hold on.
Y'all don't know.
It was a small school.
Southern Mississippi.
There it is. Way to pull that out of your head, Jay Smith. Southern Mississippi.
Ding, ding, ding. What do I win?
Favre, you win the honor of saying who your first player is, and we get to guess where he went to school.
It's funny because I brought up Brett Favre in the break time between the segments.
You did, yeah. You said his name.
I had no idea that was going to be your first player.
Means, Bradley might know where he went to college. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize Brett Favre, small school kind of guy, just a good old Southern boy who could throw the football a mile and a half.
Where did that Southern Mississippi? Where did Terry Bradshaw go? Because he went to
this is an impromptu question, by the way. This isn't one that you
off here.
But Terry Bradshaw, didn't he go to a smaller school in like Louisiana?
He did, Louisiana Blank University, and it's not state. Louisiana Tech.
Louisiana Tech. Who was he behind? Because he was like second string or third string. He wasn't a starter. I know that I'm making y'all Google on the spot.
Yeah, you sure
have
are.
computers. This
I just remember anyway. That Brett Favre question reminded me. But I'm going to list my first one. I'm a Panthers fan.
I knew
Bradley should be able to get this one. Jake Delhomme.
Louisiana Lafayette, baby.
We talked about that one a little bit last
Rodney
night.
Pete came in. He was I think he was undrafted out of Louisiana Lafayette.
He played in the European Football League, I believe, for a few years.
Really?
Yeah, he played in the European Football League.
Sounds like the league most appropriate for Jake Delhomme. Yep.
And then came over and led the Panthers to a
that I will never be able to wrap my mind around
Super
the fact
Bowl.
he made it there.
And then promptly went to the Cleveland Browns and did as every Cleveland Browns quarterback since Tim Couch has done, and that is fail. So, well done.
Nice addition to the long jersey.
I'll be honest, I didn't know that one. When we were talking about him last night, and I think somebody did Google it and shouted that out, but I had forgotten it, so did not know small school.
All right, you got it right, Bradley. So who you naming?
I will start with a pretty well-known guy. I think, Evan, you might probably get this. Darrelle Revis.
Darrelle Revis.
Putting guys on an island since whenever he started playing.
It's been a while since he's been in college.
I think it's somewhere in Texas.
It's up
somewhere
north.
It's up north.
Oh, it's up
Okay,
north.
I was thinking either Miami or Ohio State, but I don't think
ACC school.
ACC school.
Oh, it's
it wasn't Boston College, was it?
Pittsburgh.
Was it?
Sorry, Pittsburgh. Yes.
It's kind of surprising when you look at some of the great football players that have come from Pittsburgh, like Larry Fitzgerald,
Yeah,
arguably
we
one of
looked
the
up
best
a few
wide receivers
yesterday.
of all
Yeah.
time.
Yep.
Yeah, and you just don't think of Pittsburgh being like a perennial football factory, but they've produced some
It's
good
kind of
talent
like Georgia
there.
Tech producing all those wide receivers
Yep.
when they're a running
For
school. Yeah.
doing the option every play.
Yeah.
So this guy currently still in the NFL. I think all three of these guys that we've Darrell Revis is still playing somewhere,
He's
but
still sticking around somewhere.
yeah, that's the fun of this game. You can throw out current or former players. This one you should know. How about Le'Veon Bell?
Michigan State.
That's right.
That's right.
Way to
Yeah,
rattle
the
off. Jay
Spartans.
had a blank look on his face for those of you
I
that
should
can't
have
see that.
just let it
That's
sit
the-
there.
I was
and
going to say,
see if
we
could
should have
figure
seen
it
if he
out,
could
yeah.
come up
That's
with
the
it.
first one that I didn't know.
Well, he warned us he wouldn't know this game very well.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, he did.
I
He
got
did admit
Pitt
he was
a minute
gonna
ago.
Pittsburgh, yeah.
I got
Proud of
Pitt
you for that.
and
Maybe
did.
because my computer screen is
After
facing
I
me a
got
little.
Southern
Southern
wrong
Mississippi.
guesses.
I did get Southern Mississippi too with
You did. You pulled that one out. That was impressive.
All right, so is it my turn now? Do I get to go?
You're up.
Sure.
I'm gonna throw another Panther at you. You should get this. These, like I said, mine are really not
Then
that
let me
difficult.
let me
I
take
think I know who it is.
a
I
quick
think I
second
know
to
that
think
I
of
don't
it.
know it.
Okay, here we go. I got a text in from the 864. Bradshaw sat behind Phil Robertson, the patriarch of Duck
Oh,
Dynasty.
yeah, that's right.
at
Oh, wow.
LA Tech.
The Duck
That's-
Commander.
Really?
That was
That's
it.
what I
Wow.
was remembering because I did hear that story. I think it was either on their show or Terry did an interview about it on Fox NFL Sunday.
A lot of people
Right.
said that Phil Robertson should have been a better quarterback than Terry Bradshaw was.
I hope he had that
more
beard
talent than
way
he
back
did.
in the day, too.
Well, that's
He
a
did.
cool
That was
little
a
nugget.
recent development. Thanks, Texter.
All right, we're directing this one towards Evan.
Pressure's on.
Steve Smith.
Oh, God. Didn't we talk about
I
him
don't even
last
think
night?
I know this
You
one.
don't know that one?
You don't. This is the greatest Panther football player
I
of all
realized
time.
that, but I didn't really know about it until he came and was a Panther.
As I was researching last night, I found a guy named Steve Smith who went to Southern Cal, but I know that's not the
That
right
was the-
Steve
Steve
Smith.
Smith from
That's
the
the right
Giants,
area
right?
of the country.
That's the lesser known Steve Smith. California school or just out west in
no,
general?
out west in general.
Is it a small school? I feel like it
I
should
think
be
it's
a
I
small
want to say it's a bigger name school, though.
How medium-sized school? What are we talking here?
I mean, are you talking size? Or are you talking like?
dude,
college?
I don't know. Just give me a hint. I'm just asking
Help us
for a
out a
hint.
little. Is it what conference is it in?
If you tell me the
Pac-12.
if you tell me
Well,
the
that's a big school,
mascot,
then.
if you tell me the mascot, I'll know who it is.
Well, that's going to narrow
that's-
down about
that's
two
a giveaway.
schools, maybe.
well, if you hadn't said
How
the conference.
about let's go
The Jeopardy music is playing. You don't have much time.
let's go Washington State.
I'm gonna go random guess. Wait, hold on. Don't tell me. Random guess. Let's go Colorado.
Good guess on Washington State. Similar colors. It's Utah.
I was gonna say
It's
Utah.
Utah.
Really?
Yeah, Steve Smith went to Utah.
That's one school.
Interesting.
You talk about Pittsburgh having a lot of well-known guys come out
Utah.
of Pittsburgh. Utah, I think maybe has had one or two.
Alex Smith.
Yeah, that's true.
Go
Alex
Utes,
Smith,
baby.
yeah.
All right, Bradley, back to you.
All right, well, we'll go with a guy still sticking around now. I believe he's hurt last year, but Danny Amendola.
Danny Amendola. Is this? No, we were talking about Julian Edelman last night, who played quarterback
State,
at Kent
yeah.
State. Yeah, and then
This is a school that has a lot of
transitioned to wide
well-known
receiver.
wide receivers that have
Oh,
come
Texas
out.
Tech.
Wide
Texas
receiver,
Tech.
you-
Yeah,
Texas
do not remember him
Tech.
playing back in college.
I don't
at
remember
all,
watching
but
him at Tech either.
He's made a pretty good living.
We talked a good bit about
catching
Texas
balls for
Tech
Tom Brady.
yesterday with Michael Crabtree
Yeah,
and
Michael
Jay. You didn't
Crabtree.
know Graham Harrell, the quarterback at the time.
No, that name just doesn't ring a bell to me.
can't
But I
believe you don't
remember
remember.
Michael Crabtree.
Yeah.
That dude could throw it.
Graham Harrell
It was
was
him and
one throwing
Cole
to him.
Brennan were the two guys that we brought up.
Cole
that
Brennan and Kellen Moore threw out those two names. Great guys,
threw it
great
forever.
quarterbacks.
All right, my
All
turn
right.
again, or
It can be if you're ready.
real
that
quick.
anxious.
Then I'll throw in Jerry Rice.
Mississippi Valley State?
Yeah,
That's right. I looked it up last night.
I remember seeing some
Yes.
documentary on that, and that
Small,
was like the
small
only
school.
well-known player they'd ever have come out of that school.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like Randy Moss at Marshall. You know,
Yeah.
the two greatest wide receivers of all time coming
He
from
went to Rand University.
small
Come on.
schools. All right. This guy's not as well known. Also, I think technically a wide receiver, but also kind of a kick and punt returner, do it all. Jeremy Curley played for the Jets. I don't know if he's still with them. Like I said, not a very well-known guy. No, it's not Iowa. I'm trying to think. I'll give it a conference, Big 12 conference, and I could tell you who his teammates were, or well, I could tell you who the quarterback was that was throwing the ball in college, and that should be a dead giveaway. So I won't do
let's
that
hear it
yet.
then.
His quarterback was Andy Dalton in
it's
college.
TCU. I was going to say TCU.
Yeah.
Mhm.
TCU, another good football talent factory. Andy Dalton, LaDainian Tomlinson, Jeremy Curley had potential, but kind of hard to pan out with the New York Jets organization over the past couple of
TCU
years.
for a few years was.
I mean, still are.
Playing in Rose Bowls, but
year in and
I
year out,
haven't
yeah.
heard their
They
name
almost
much.
made the playoff. It was them and Baylor.
Yeah,
If
they
the Big
both
12
didn't
had a
make it.
championship game, whoever won that, one of those two would have been in the playoff that first or second year, I think.
That
All right,
was
I got
a
one that
years ago.
I got one. I don't think people could even tell you the team that he played for in the NFL because he had one good year and then just didn't do anything after that.
This is going to be embarrassing. Then.
Peyton Hillis.
Yeah, we talked about him last night. I don't think anyone ever actually told me where he went.
Cover of Madden in 2012, but that's hard to believe.
That might be the worst Madden curse ever. Peyton Hillis.
An SEC school.
SEC?
SEC. So he was, he played for
Tennessee.
Nope, Arkansas.
Dang it.
Yeah.
I felt really good about that.
That was a good guess because I had no idea.
So he actually was
I think it was the
pretty
name
good coming out of
Peyton.
high school and college.
I think I was thinking of Peyton Manning. He went to Tennessee.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
That Peyton name throws you off.
Yeah.
Darn it. I felt really good about that guess. Oh, well.
He's a hog.
All right. How about one of the greatest defensive players of all time, Lawrence Taylor?
Gosh.
You got to know where Lawrence
I keep
Taylor.
picturing the
Wow.
scene from Blindside, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to think back when he played in college. Oh, gosh.
Great New York Jets
really should
linebacker.
have known this.
I really thought, Bradley, you especially would know this one.
Oh,
Y'all
was it
really don't know?
Miami?
No, it wasn't ACC school, though. Much closer to home.
Oh, man.
Much closer to your house.
Was it Chapel Hill?
In
then?
Charlotte, yeah. He went to UNC.
Did he really?
He was a Tar Heel. Lawrence Taylor.
Maybe I just hate to admit that. I didn't want to think about it.
Yeah, I figured you
He
might
just blocks
know him.
all
Being
UNC
a
I don't want
Across
to think
mine.
about that. Wow, that's good for them. I mean, that was.
Yeah.
You don't hear much about UNC football back then, but I guess they had
A couple of good defense players.
back then.
Julius Peppers also
Yeah,
went to
good
Carolina.
basketball player too.
Yep.
Well, Bradley, you got any trivia questions queued up for this coming week that you want to give everybody a preview on?
This
or?
coming week,
Yeah, no time to think about them yet.
Definitely will probably be about bowl games. I probably should have done the Clemson one about which were the first team they played, but never ended up doing that. I don't know. I'll have to think of one. It'll definitely be Clemson related. We'll do probably one every other day. One I can think of on the spot. Oh boy.
Do you do strictly Clemson related trivia or just college football trivia? Because y'all run the social media account way more than I do.
Yeah,
I didn't even
usually
see those
stick to
questions.
We
Clemson.
have to do one Clemson, and then we try to do at least
Yeah.
one like regular college.
You could ask trivia questions and we cover the answer on the show, and then you can see who's really paying attention to us.
Oh, you could do that.
We'll work
That's
on
not
that.
a bad idea. Yeah. I don't know.
Till
We'll
next
think of
week,
something.
gentlemen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got, like I said, a lot hopefully planned for the rest of the shows this summer, but this show has really been a lot of fun bringing it to you. I really enjoyed the discussion related to best Clemson coach of all time. I think the best
We'll forgive you for your answers.
We didn't choke each other.
bowl
either. That's
game
pretty good.
of all time is another good discussion. But yeah, it's been a lot of fun bringing you this edition of After Further Review. For Evan, Bradley, and myself, thanks for listening, and we will see you next time.